War is thousands of miles away has to be apparent to people, especially after a decade plus. Here now, retired U.S. Army Colonel Doug Macgregor. Colonel, are the Americans the ones to blame for their war weariness? I've heard a lot of nuttiness when it comes to foreign policy coming from the Republican Party, but that's about it.
Well, I think McMaster expresses an opinion that's widely held in neocon circles here in Washington and inside the Pentagon, and that is that the war is an end in itself. There's no connection to policy analysis or coherent strategy. The idea is you've got to keep the war going. And when you ask questions, you're obviously ignorant. The president is a fool. Why does he continue to ask, why are we there? We've spent $6 trillion, lost thousands of lives. We have more enemies than we had 19 years ago. What are we doing?
We can't even get the actual figure, really, for how much we've spent. It's kind of hard to track that down. Some goes between 2 and 6 trillion. But we have some figures here. In Iraq, $822 billion. It's got to be more than that, don't you think? Way more. I saw that number. I'm like, there's no way that can be right. Syria, inherent resolve, $54 billion. Afghanistan, $975 billion. It's got to be more than that. Pakistan, $10 billion. That's just a drop in the bucket, though, is it not? And yet, we were down at the border this week.
Yes.
It's a shock. It is. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the judges. We don't have the right laws, obviously. Yeah. But these people are outmanned and overwhelmed by a porous U.S. border. We're over there in these other countries.
And Laura, in the meantime, 94% of the heroin that comes into the United States comes from Mexico. The 6 cartels in Mexico are shipping the opioids into the country that last year killed at least 70,000 Americans. And we're hearing General McKenzie and CENTCOM talk about allegedly the Iranians have killed 600 Americans over the last several years, and this is the justification for threatening Iran.
They want to go to war with Iran, don't they?
What? Yeah, probably. But I mean, why aren't we militarizing our border and protecting the country?
Oh, that's too obvious. Colonel, just today, the Pentagon announced it's shifting $1.5 billion originally targeted for the support of the Afghan security forces and other projects to the border to help pay for construction of the 80 miles of the new fence or wall, whatever we're calling it. Is Trump finally winning this fight, or is...
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's a nice gesture, but the cartels are now flying their own unmanned aircraft so that they can pick the areas where there are no patrolmen and dump off new migrants. We've got to understand Mexico is not a normal state. It's controlled by the cartels. It's time to militarize. You're calling it a narco?
It's a narco state.
It is a narco state. It's time to militarize that border, and President Trump needs to do it. If he wants his base to come out for him, that's what he's got to do.
Well, I got to tell you, Colonel, what we saw, and these are great men in the Border Patrol, it is so unfair what's done to them. And we've got to change these asylum laws. We have to do immediate turn back at the border. Colonel, thank you. It's great to see you tonight.
Thank you.
And coming up, a little different, Friday Follies.